I'm Larry LeBeau. I'm the executive director and co-founder at NewFilmmakers LA. I'm actually going to start with, we've got some filmmakers in the festival, like 15 of them. We've got a bunch of other, like I think 35, 40 alumni, I see two right there, alumni from NewFilmmakers LA. We're so excited to be doing this. We also have a bunch of amazing partners of ours who are here, who have been supporting us and supporting this panel and supporting Shine and supporting Diff and supporting AWD and Gianfranco. Tim Malloy, where are you at? Can we get Movie Maker Magazine to stand up, please? Movie Maker is here with us. We've got a bunch of other amazing partners. Quickly, Yeti is our new deputy director of the California Film Commission, where we're from. Yeti, can you just say something? Can we just have you say something so people know who you are?
Sorry, my age getting out of that couch. Hey guys, it's really nice to be here and to meet all of you. Larry, it's been a wonderful welcome to me as the new deputy director. The NFMLA is a partner of the California Film Commission for a long time, and we are just always so happy to support, upcoming filmmakers, and we're here to be a resource, and it's great to be here as well to see all of you. So hopefully I can say hi to as many people after as possible, and great to meet you all.
And I wanted to do that just because, I want people to know that, California actually still cares about filmmakers. We do. We love you. But also, 3 of us are from California, and then Shine Global is from New York. And Shine Global does its programming everywhere, so we know you guys do a lot in California, and we love that. And with that, we are going to kick off this panel with Sola, our moderator with the most.
Hi, guys. How are ya? So nice to see all of your beautiful faces. Thank you guys so much for coming and joining us. It's going to be a wonderful conversation. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our panelists. Please come on up. Come on up. We have Gianfranco. We have Kylie, Alexandra, and Jessica. All right. It's very comfortable. Nice.
Yeah, this is comfortable.
Right? We're settling in,
I
guys.
think I got
in.
the cushion one.
All right, well, welcome, guys. Welcome, and it's just a joy to have you, and it's an honor, too, because the work that you're doing is just wonderful. So thank you for taking the time to do this. And again, thank you to Larry, NewFilmmakers LA, and everyone who's here. We're just so grateful. So let's start us off. I mean, you guys are all wonderful people doing wonderful things. Just go down the line, say your name, the organization you're with, or if there's a film that you are working on, anything that you'd like to tell the audience about.
Cool. I'm Gianfranco Fernandez Ruiz. What up, y'all? Hope you're having a good Sundance. I'm very tired. I hope you guys are not feeling as tired as I am. But we're watching good movies, and we're spending time with good people. I am a filmmaker. I've benefited a lot from NewFilmmakers LA. I am basically representing, not basically, I am representing NewFilmmakers LA. So if you have questions about NFMLA, I am here to field some of those questions. But we also have Larry, and Larry kills the game. You saw him a second ago, so I'm not gonna make him wave or anything, but you know where he is. I'm working on things, but we'll talk about those things in relationship to all the things that we're talking about. I'll pass the mic.
Thank you.
Invisibly.
Visibly pass the mic, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Just, and I created and co-founded Creating Creators. And I am an actress, producer, editor. I work with youth, so our goal is to connect education with entertainment. And we build pathways in public schools and private schools, and we work where we make them work with other filmmakers in the classroom, and they make their films side by side with us and then premiere their films. So it's a fun experience. Yeah, and I will pass it to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Forgive my voice. It's Sundance, so I'm tired and losing my voice.
You're in good company.
But it's such a joy to be here. I'm Kylie Eaton. I am the Executive Director of Alliance of Women Directors. Thank you. We are a nonprofit. We were formed in 1997 to advocate for women and gender-expansive directors in film, TV, and new media. We have over 650 members nationwide, so if anyone ever says, I don't know any women directors, allianceofwomendirectors.org has a whole host of them. We support those directors through internal workshops, programming, partnerships. Throughout the year, we offer educational and career-advancing resources, which I'll talk a little bit more about during the panel. And we are just so happy to be here in this room. I have seen so many AWD members here, and all around the festival. So happy to represent and be with these lovely folks. So I'll pass it on to you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alexandra Blaney. I'm the co-CEO and creative director at Shine Global, which is a nonprofit film production company with the mission to improve children's lives through powerful storytelling. So we develop and produce our own films. We also co-produce films to help get them over the finish line and go out into the world to have an impact. And we also run a filmmaker support program through our Resilience Awards, which is a year-round program where we give prizes out, including cash, as well as in-kind support to filmmakers. And we actually gave one, John Franco was a finalist with us with one of his films.
I have
Big
also
People
benefited
Life.
from Shine.
But our goal is to make sure that these films are getting out into the world, getting seen, and having an impact. And I'll be able to tell you more about some of those amazing films throughout the program.
We're going to dive more into all of this wonderful work that you guys are doing. So we can go down the line, or if anyone really wants to jump in and do this. How did you get your start in this industry? Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I got divorced. It was a very easy way in. It was a very easy way in. You have a lot of stories. No, I mean, I think I was a cinephile always. And when I was very young, I was at this, I grew up in Boston. There was an Institute of Contemporary, who's from Boston?
Nice.
Right on. All right, cool, man. Anyway, there was a museum there called the ICA Boston, and they had this little program called the Fast Forward Teen Program. And I knew I loved movies so much, and so I started taking their, they put a camcorder in my hand. And it was virtually impossible in my mind until these guys put this camcorder in my hand and they started screening our movies and on this massive screen, and I'm talking about terrible movies, okay? Terrible, like 17-year-old stories that I started with. And then, you divorce yourself from the idea because you're like, it really is virtually impossible to do this. And I went to college and I thought I was gonna be in business. And then I was in college for a very long time because I hated business. And then I went to communications and I was like, I already know how to communicate. And then I, jumped over and did English, and I fell in love with literature, and they didn't really have a film program. Anyway, I got divorced. And when I got divorced, that's when I found this way back to myself, which was telling these stories in cinema. And it was here, actually, in Salt Lake City.
Welcome back.
I'm back. I'm back.
I'll go next. They're going down the line.
Yeah,
Okay,
might as
so
well,
I actually joined SAG when I was 5. So I've been acting since I was really little. And from that experience, I just grew up with that's just how you live. You practice your scripts, you go through your auditions, you go to your set, and then you have to go to school. So I realized right away that like education and entertainment can go hand in hand, and that kids can do this. And because that's all I knew. And I made sense of the world through creating. Like when I was really little, my grandfather was, he was not able to always see these plays that we would create in my uncle's cabin. And my cousins and I wanted him to see the play. So he had this old camcorder and he gave it, I took it, I played around with it. And we filmed the play that year that we wrote so he could see it, and that kind of showed me the power of media, because other people need to see what you're thinking in your head. It's beautiful we're here right now, but look, there's cameras recording us, and more people beyond just this room are gonna hear what we get to say because of video, because of film, media. And that's where I think I fell in love with it. Nice. Yeah.
Really, really, and I think so many people in this room can really, really connect with that. What you said too, know?
Yeah, sort of like Gianfranco said, I grew up just with a love of cinema, but I grew up in, small town Midwest, had no access to the industry, but I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to go to a summer program at UCLA while I was in high school, which is why I love what Jessica does. I was able to go and learn all about filmmaking, and that really opened up and broadened my perspective of, oh, this is something I could actually do, because I had never seen someone in my hometown or someone that, I couldn't name a female director at that point in my life. And so it really gave me a lot of confidence to pursue going to film school, which I went to Chapman, and then got my start in the industry from there. I think there's some alum here. I just heard, yeah, I'd love to hear it. I'm gonna miss the thing today. Yeah. Say hi for me. I went to film school, and then I got started in the industry kind of in a very traditional route as an assistant. Worked my way up from there, becoming a filmmaker. I've done a lot of short form content, sci-fi, things like that. And then I got involved with Alliance of Women Directors just by joining as a member and starting to volunteer. And I really fell in love with the nonprofit world and with giving back to other filmmakers. Sometimes I feel like sitting alone in a room and writing, or like prepping for a shoot or pitching, it can be this like very self-involved pursuit sometimes, because you have to push your stories forward and you're like always thinking about it. And I get so much fulfillment out of helping other filmmakers push forward in their career. And so I've just been really, really grateful for the opportunity to have this amazing group and to sort of open up my skills and share with them. And it really all goes back to that first time that someone took a chance on me and gave me that scholarship and introduced me to that world. So that's what I'm hoping to continue to do.
Like everybody else on this panel, I love movies. So I mean, when I was growing up in rural Arizona, every Friday and Saturday, my whole family, we'd watch 2 movies that my dad had taped from TCM. So I actually loved old movies too. So I think I was the only 8-year-old going to the video rental store and renting Peter Sellers movies for all my sleepover parties. This was really popular. But then I went away to school, and I think because of all of those movies and books that I was reading, I wanted to help change the world and make it a better place. So I was going to go into politics, international relations. But in college, I took a film class about Latin American documentary film, learned about the third cinema movement, and that just opened up my eyes of how even the act of watching a movie can be an act of resistance against fascism and the dictatorships that they were fighting in the 60s and 70s in Latin America. And so then after I graduated, I moved to New York, was like, I'm gonna do nonprofit documentary film, and I got super lucky on Craigslist, and I found an internship with Shine Global. And I have never left. I think I was actually, that was back when Hulu was free and you could still, and they were just still doing only ads by nonprofits. So I was the only person that interviewed for the internship that had watched Shine Global's first movie, which was at the time the only one they had made, War Dance, which if you have not seen it, there is a bootleg version still on YouTube that you can find. So I got incredibly lucky with Shine Global because the founders, Susan and Albie, gave me a chance. I was not a film student. I just loved movies and writing. I had never edited. I never did anything, but I signed up for an editing internship at the same time, learned I did not want to be an editor. And I got these incredible mentors with those two, Susan and Albie, and everybody else working on the next film that we were making, who gave me a lot of responsibility and just trusted me to learn and keep doing things. So that's my pathway, is just bringing a love of movies to change the world and making sure that you surround yourself with amazing, good people.
Thank you. What a good way to end the answer to that question, because we're very much aware of what's going on in the world right now and in this country. And I think when we can gather like this, it does give hope and inspires and reminds us that art can change hearts and minds. So thank you for that. Going off of what this panel is about, how do intentional career pipeline programs support artists across the full arc of their journey? So maybe, Alexandra, should we start with you with that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the full arc of the journey is a really important part of this question. Filmmakers, we all need mentorship, we need community, we need funding and distribution, and we need all of those things simultaneously for the entire career. I'm a member of the DPA, and one of the members there, Jonathan Levitt, just has been doing some great research that he just shared some of that earlier in this festival. But one thing that stuck out for me from that is for documentary directors and producers to become successful, recognized and have a sustainable career, you have to make 6 to 11 films. That's a lot of films. I mean, making one film is really hard. So it's gonna take you 10 more to be successful. And what that means to me is that we need to be supporting filmmakers at every stage of their career. So not just the first film, not just the second film, but the 5th film, the 8th film, the 11th film. And so that long-term support is really important, and something that we do at Shine Global when we are signing up for a film. We're signing up for the next 10 or 20 years. So that's a lot of what I'm working on there is making sure that these films get off the ground, that they get seen, and that they continue to be seen. So, for example, one of our most recent films was Anuja, which had an amazing year last year, who was nominated for the Oscar. We were on Netflix. We just got the Netflix viewership numbers, and I think it was the most watched short film on Netflix. We had with the,
Congratulations.
yeah, incredible. I mean, like 10 million people watching a short film. That's a lot of people. But that was just year 1 of its release. Next month, we're taking Anuja and then another film from 2010 that we produced, The Harvest La Cosecha. We're taking that to Morocco for the Global Child Labor Conference. So that's the type of journey and the type of support that films need is now and 10 years from now. So I think that arc is really important to make sure that we are in all of those phases.
Yeah, and I'd love to follow up on that. I think that completely the same thing at AWD. We're trying to help directors at every step in their career. And one thing that I think is so important about pipeline programs is that they offer access, right? Because education is so important around what we do in terms of craft and career building skills. And there's a lot of ways to do that, but if there's no access, we have members that have made 10, 15 short films, feature films, all of that. And sometimes they just need to meet the right person who is going to distribute that film, or they need to meet the right person who's going to finance their next film. And if they don't have access to the gatekeepers in the industry, they're not going to be able to do that. And so that's something where I see we can be very helpful in opening those doors and providing access. And I love what you said about the full scope of careers because, and you also mentioned research. I think we've all hopefully seen the recent Annenberg stats. This is the worst year for women filmmakers. We're at a 7-year low. Only 9 of the top 100 films in 2025 were directed by women. It's a crisis, to be quite honest. And it's not just a crisis for filmmakers, it's a crisis for the audience and losing out on diverse stories. And so, those 9 filmmakers, there's 9 of them. There are hundreds, like I said, thousands of women directors that have made fantastic films. So how do we give them access to get to that next step? That's what I think about a lot is transitions. How do we get a director from their indie feature to a studio feature? How do we help a director get from short form to their first episode or their second episode, which is often harder to get than the first episode? So how do we open doors that will create real moments of pivot in someone's career?
Excellent. I have a unique perspective because I work with kids from K all the way through 12. So they're the next generation of filmmakers. They're going to be in your seats hopefully soon. But one thing that I have seen, and I've had the blessing of seeing our students now working at Netflix and at places that were like, NBC and Google. And the one thing that they always come back and say is it was because there was somebody in that position of power that saw themselves in me or saw me as a potential. And I was open to what they were asking. Because a lot of times, people come in and they think they're owed or that they're gonna get this thing, and you're building yourself up. It's a world of no's. But when you go out there and you're willing to listen to this person, and you're kind of putting yourself out there in a way that maybe it's a little bit scary, and you're not sure, but you're listening to this mentor and you're taking a chance, and you're showing up. We have kids that have been given the opportunity, and unfortunately they take it for granted, and then they don't show up, and that's it. And that's what they'll say, that's it. So one, show up for sure. Making sure that the pipeline, though, is supporting our kids all the way through the process. And like you're mentioning, we, as Creating Creators Foundation, we start in elementary, kind of show them who they are, what their perspective is, build their confidence, build the collaboration element, cross-laterally with their peers. And then we want to connect them to a very specific mentor that sees their talents and grows their skills. And then basically there is going to be that moment of doubt. In every creative, there is that moment of doubt. So having that foundation, which is our foundation, literally, that stays with them and says, you got this. And even if they say no, there's another opportunity out there. So that is really what is important about pipelines. It's not just like, oh, you're good, here's $500, good luck. No, like staying with them, right? And really guiding them through, even if it's not money, you don't realize how much a compliment or how much that first win is to that next creative.
Yeah, it claps. I'll come at this from a very different perspective. How many of you are filmmakers? So let me talk to my filmmakers, because I am also a filmmaker, right? And I know what the struggle is like as a filmmaker. There's a couple of little holes that we fall into, and they happen very fast. When I was coming up, you know, in my Salt Lake years, I call them. I made about 3 or 4 short films. They were like, I mean, they were MOS. Like, we didn't even have sound. You know, we were like putting it in afterwards. You know, so people walking and you're going like this kind of stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about. And then you know, I get an AFI and I'm learning this new skill set at AFI to become a much stronger director. Now, all the things can line up, right? I go to AFI, I make a short film, it goes to the HBO short film competition over at ABFF. I'm a finalist, you know, things are looking great. I do get a manager out of that, right? It's an incredible little story. I have another film that was already kind of playing everywhere, went to Fantastic Fest. I'm like, I'm at all these cool festivals, I'm meeting all these dope people, you know, I'm right there. You know, I go, I make my thesis at AFI, it plays at Telluride, one of the biggest film festivals in the world, and you think in your mind, you go, I'm next up. That's how it works, right? I went to Telluride, you know? I'm next. And then you quickly learn that you're not next, right? And what do you do then? And that's where places like NewFilmmakers or Shine Global or AWD, what's yours again? Creating Creators. And DIF, that's where these companies, they come in because they become partnerships for the filmmaker that's developing. Not because you're any less of a filmmaker, not because you're not talented enough to make that feature that you're so ready for, right? The reality is that it actually is your turn. It's just not your path, right? And it's so easy to look at all the other paths and say, man, them cats are doing it. And I went to friggin' Telluride, right? But you gotta take a step back and go, what do I have and how do I use it, right? How do I leverage this? There's a way to leverage the film festivals that you're playing at, but there's also a way to leverage these very underrated partnerships with companies like Shine Global or like NewFilmmakers LA. NewFilmmakers, for me and Kylie, you know, I was the best new filmmaker of the year in 2024.
Woo! Yes.
And she was 2025. And when, you know, having that, and it's not just because I'm buddy-buddy, right? Like, they obviously see that there's skill and that they're looking at my film. My film won Best Drama, and because of that film that won Best Drama at NewFilmmakers, which again, people are like, well, what's NewFilmmakers? Or what's AWD or any of these things? It's not HBO, it's not Sony, it's not these things that we are immediately, that we find recognizable. But something then happens, there's like some kind of a trench that starts building, and it's leading you, that pipeline, to these people where they can track you. So I remember when I won Best Drama at NewFilmmakers LA, Focus Features hit me up. They were in my email. They said, congratulations. We can't wait to read the feature. And guess what I wrote? You know? But you have to know how to leverage those things. And you have to know what relationships you need to build so that you can actually start moving in a direction where those things that you're making can become the path.
Thank you.
Can I just follow up on that really quickly?
course.
Because I love everything you said, and I just want to say to the filmmakers, when you're part of these groups, like, make the most out of it. Go to the meetups, like, meet people, face-to-face, talk to the people that are running the programs, talk to alumni of the programs. You know, you can only get out of it what you put into it. So I think that John Franco is an example if he's putting a lot in and he's getting a lot out of it. And so I would encourage you, whatever group that you're a part of, whatever community that you have found to be a part of, immerse yourself in it and get as much out of it as you can.
Anybody else want to add anything before I move on? It's great. Well, acknowledging that we have a room full of filmmakers, how can aligned ecosystems like mentorship, professional development, funding access, and community building better serve filmmakers? So, Jessica,
Yes.
do you want to
Sure, I'll chime in on that.
Yeah.
That's a very loaded question, but it's a good
Got
question.
this.
Okay, so ecosystems are super important, as Gianfranco mentioned. It's like having your community, but also knowing what your foundation is. For me, it started with my family and my faith, right? So I no matter what, it gives me that hope and that can-do attitude. And when there's the no, and there's the low times, and there's the sad times, you can continue on and know exactly who you are, so you're not defined by this crazy entertainment world around us, AI world around us, and changing rapidly. So always come back to your center, always remember who you are. That being said, know who your community is. And when you know your community, you know how to support it and you know how to engage it. And it actually can be a power source because when your peers are off doing their own struggles, they're actually sharing, oh, by the way, I didn't get that job either. It actually is a comfort. And it continues you forward together and you support each other laterally. And sometimes they're like, oh, I remember this person. They're really, really good at directing, or they're really good at, I want to bring them into my project, right? So, right? I'm going to work with him. And that is, you're creating your own ecosystem. You're creating your own sustainable production company in a sense, and a way that you can continue and combat this world of no's, or this world of like, I don't think I'll ever make it. Those negative thoughts go away when you stay with your community. And the last part is the funding. So you just have to kind of assume people are going to say no. But if you don't believe in your own project, then how are you going to expect someone else to believe in your project? So it's kind of coming back to like finding why you're excited about what you want to tell, finding the people that you're going to make it with, and then understanding how other people are going to take that idea and benefit from it. It's the world of economy, right? So you want to make sure that your story has that place and you're pushing it out even when everybody's like, no, I'm really the best thing since sliced bread. I'm telling you, it's going to be great. And then it kind of manifests.
Confidence is important. Believing
Yes.
in what you're trying to make is so
It's true.
important.
Yeah, I'd love to speak from an organizational perspective, talking about like, how do we build these ecosystems for filmmakers, right? So at AWD, we started, like I said, in '97 with a handful of women in a living room. We've grown to over 650 members. We're based in LA. We have chapters in Atlanta and New York. We're nationwide. That's a big growth over time. And so we're continually trying to see who our members are. Like you were talking about, who are you as a filmmaker? What is the makeup of our group? And so something that's been really successful for us was we held a town hall in 2020 in the wake of the George Floyd murder. And what grew out of that became our Black Directors Advancement Initiative. We used that cohort as a way to specifically help overcome those barriers, because we're all women and gender diverse people in our organization, but there are additional barriers that some of our members face. So we created the Black Directors Advancement Initiative. It's a mentorship-based cohort. We pair them one-on-one with mentors. We do some career coaching and some other specialized workshops. After the success of that had started in 2021, in 2024, we created our Mentor Latina Directors Fellowship based on a similar model. There may be a member in here, the community that has grown out of those two cohorts has taught us so much about how we can better serve the individual member, because they're coming together in those communities, and we're providing, like I said, the access, but we're also sort of in conversation with all of our members all the time of like, what are the barriers you're facing? How do those come up? And how can we help you overcome them? since I had a child 3 years ago, and since becoming a mother, I'm like so much more aware now of like the additional barriers that parents and caregivers face. So taking a look at our membership and seeing, okay, how do we help those members that also have those barriers? So I think in creating those ecosystems, we really have to keep looking at who our filmmakers are, who our directors are, and how we can individually serve them, and that's gonna sort of benefit everyone overall.
Yeah. I started more on the producer side and then came at it from the organizational side. So, I mean, you know, as a producer, as a filmmaker, you're getting rejected all of the time. I've been at film festivals where we're all hanging out and all of us get the rejection email at the same time. You know, you have people to commiserate with, but it's hard. And so that, you know, even with successful films, you're still getting rejected all the time and not getting the recognition that's going to help your next film go. It's a struggle every single time to raise money. So out of that experience is why I created the Resilience Awards. It was in response to my experience in the industry. And so that was what we did. The very first year was just one giant cash prize for one film and a whole award ceremony for all the nominees so that they were getting cash and that celebration and recognition. And that first one, when we brought all the filmmakers together, we had that sense of community. People went out tango dancing together. It was amazing. And so we started expanding it, and now we've partnered with 7 different film festivals. So now we're giving out multiple prizes throughout the year in partnership with other festivals and other organizations that are also supporting filmmakers and expanding that support throughout the whole year. So I mean, partnerships has been said quite a few times here, and that is so critical to this ecosystem changing and surviving. So I would encourage you to find those partners, those support groups. I mean, I'm a member of the DPA, IDA, PGA, could say a few more acronyms, and also the Future Film Coalition. I really love the work they're doing to help advance the industry as a whole. So I think that is very important as filmmakers to all come together and as organizations to partner together so that we can advocate for all of us and also find that emotional support as well that we're all gonna need.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I had to look at that question many times. And I think in my head as a filmmaker, what I want to talk about is what your niche is as a filmmaker and understanding that. You know, the minute you understand your voice as a filmmaker is the minute you can go and try and find the people that are going to immediately align with the stories you're trying to tell. I mean, it's going to be very tough to go to, you know, me, to AWD, right? They're not really
We have ally membership. We are open to all genders.
Yes.
Any creative discipline, everyone can join us.
Love it.
We can clap. We can clap with that. You know, we're all learning every day. What I'm meaning to say here is that ultimately, as filmmakers, we have to find the pockets of people who already think the same things that we're thinking. It may not end in like a really cool award, you know, whether that's going to be money, but there's always a start to something, and that start is really, really important. It's key to your career and development as a filmmaker. An example of this would be hitting up not a big museum, but a small museum. And I'm speaking to you experimental filmmakers. I know there's a few of you in there that are a little too poetic, right? And I love the poeticism. You know, I started in the arts. I started in poetry. That was what undergrad was for me. So if you're playing in that space, you might hit up a museum that's really small, and you might send them a deck, and the deck might have this idea for featuring your work. And maybe the work of other filmmakers that you've already seen, maybe at other festivals that you've played with, maybe in the same blocks, because you know they are often themed. And you can easily say, hey, I have an idea for you. And you make their programming so easy. Now you're building a relationship with this institution, and that institution will go a long way in supporting you as a filmmaker. And sometimes you have to position, what is support for me as a filmmaker at this time? Sometimes that looks like a financial thing, like a financial gain. And, I've gotten that from really wonderful places like NewFilmmakers LA. I got a camera from NewFilmmakers LA. That was really dope. But sometimes you're not going to get that. Sometimes you're just going to get either a network of people because they know people that you might want to know, or you're going to get an opportunity to screen and get your stuff seen by other people, even if it's not Sundance, even if it's not Telluride, right? You have to be able to find those audiences, and you need to find those partners to build yourself a career. Because the work is not to be famous, right? I don't think anybody here that really loves cinema wants to go and be the next Chris Nolan. It would be dope. It would be very cool. But that's not really the goal. If you knew that you couldn't be Chris Nolan, would you still be doing film? Would you still be making work? Right. So if that is the case, then finding those people that are going to partner up with us, that are going to be aligned in our mission, that's the start to your career.
All of this is so insightful and just wonderful. Jessica,
Yes.
Get back to you.
Okay.
You are a CEO of Creating Creators. You're a partner, you're an actress, producer, editor. Basically, is there anything you don't do? What are you working on now? And how do you approach educational outreach with resources dwindling down to the current administration and government? How do you manage all of this? What are you doing
Excellent
with all
question.
that's going on?
I think a lot of us understand the changes that are going on, and I think the first step of this is to have the right mindset about it and understand that we can't see that as the obstacle. And what we teach a lot of our kids, one of our first lessons that we teach our students in our classrooms is managing your emotions. Because you have to be aware of how things affect you and how your feelings then affect other people. That's the antithesis of what we do as screenwriters and creative artists. That's how we empathize with people, and that's why our art resonates with other people. So if our kids don't even know that because they're so inundated with what the world is telling them, this is what you are and this is what's happening now and be fearful, then they can't even get in touch with why they're creating what they're doing and what their point of view is. So we really want to get to that point. Teaching kids that they have a story to tell, understanding what that story is, and then being able to help them really write it in a way that other people can hear it. And we tell them that you have the right to be heard just as much as your classmates have the right to hear from you. So that's the lesson. And then we basically then can go from there where they feel comfortable and they feel like they can collaborate with their peers and they start to think more critically because they're in a space of safety. And you're allowed to then have your thoughts, and you can start thinking why do I like that? Or why did I prefer watching a movie about zombies versus watching a movie that I laugh at? Or, what's my point of view? And once you do that, then you can kind of combat this question about funding. Because then you can start feeling comfortable to think outside of the box. You can have a piece about your next choice because you really have thought about it and you've tested it with your peers and your mentors. And as you start thinking outside of the box, you can pivot. So that's what Creating Creators is now doing in the foundation. We've created a collaboration with amazing institutions like NewFilmmakers LA and a group called Group Effort Initiative and some other companies that want to get kids on their first job in the industry. But we go one step further where we can kind of protect their first job because kids have to have the ability to make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, they learn. And this is true for adults too, right? And I really encourage anyone who is from maybe a studio here or in the industry pipeline, do not lose the ability for kids or your new hires to make a mistake because it's gonna make your company more competitive. Because we're all gonna learn together and we're gonna be able to kind of encourage each other through this process and they're gonna appreciate that and wanna give more to your company. And so as we start doing that, we have created this ecosystem where kids are being asked to pair up with art department heads or directors or people that are in our branding, and we create commercial spots for brands and for our school districts that we work with. So it's a win-win for everybody, but really we're bringing the workplace into education. And it's creating an ecosystem of sustainable funding that then goes back to their education, goes back to the school districts that we work with, and it is helping us pivot around this problem of like, well, the government may not be always there, may not always be funding us. So where else can we get funding? We're filmmakers, we'll figure it out. We're all mavericks, right? We're coming up with our ideas, and that is sort of how we started doing that. We want to bring the workplace into education.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Wow. And something that you really, I mean, so many things you said stuck with me, but creating these safe spaces.
Yeah.
So key and important. So bravo.
Thank you.
Alexandra, we're going to go to you. So as the co-CEO of Shine Global and the producer of Academy Award nominated films, what are you working on now, and how do you continue to support filmmakers during this ever-changing landscape of entertainment?
So with the continuing to try and expand the Resilience Awards program, which it's films that we wish we had made, basically. So we're expanding the number of partnerships with other film festivals and organizations that we have. I would actually encourage anybody that has a short film that might be about children's rights or children's issues. We're partnered with Indie Shorts Film Festival, so submit through them. That's where we found Gianfranco. A really incredible festival. So we're expanding. We have screenwriting awards. We have films for children and families, short films, featured docs, animated, any genre, as long as it's about kids and children's rights. So in addition, we're trying to add more cash prizes to that, so that we're giving more cash, because that is so needed and necessary for filmmakers to just survive. Also working on distribution and adding in more ways for all of these films and filmmakers to actually reach audiences. I know that's one of the hardest things with all of our films, is getting the film out there. So creating partnerships with organizations where we can be bringing in the films to audiences, where they can engage with filmmakers, including youth audiences and the education aspect of it, which I love, being in those spaces together, watching a movie and discussing it. It's very important. And continuing to work on all of the long tail impact campaigns for all of these films. So the 20 that we've produced and developed, the 41 and counting through the Resilience Awards, we're really working to find ways to bring those out into the world and then keep adding to that. And as all filmmakers, I have multiple projects in development that we are also fundraising for and advocating around.
And again, so many wonderful things were said, and kudos to you for really championing this, but also just the idea of continuing to bring people together to support art, right? It's still everything, finding community in that, so bravo. Kylie, you are Executive Director of Alliance of Women Directors and a filmmaker yourself. So what are you working on now? And how is AWD navigating the current landscape as an organization who champions women while there's been major rollback on inclusion initiatives in the industry?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I don't think it's any surprise to anyone here that it's been a really tough few years. We have seen so much rollback. We have, lost funding, lost partners because of the fear around this administration, and it is tragic, quite frankly. And we have the spirit to keep moving on. Someone mentioned being indie filmmakers. I come from the indie world. I'm scrappy. We can figure this out. We're gonna do it together. So it is a very dark time right now, but I wanna shine a light on some of our programming that I think has been really successful, because as these programs roll back, we have found ways to create our own programs. When I came onto the board at AWD, something that I had noticed as a filmmaker myself, there were so many pipeline programs for TV directors, which makes sense because, that's more of a pipeline type situation, but I was very passionate about creating something for the feature side. So in 2024, we launched our Rising Director Fellowship to support first-time feature filmmakers. These filmmakers in the cohort, we had 5 the first year. They had done episodic, they had done short films, branded content, award-winning, and they just needed a little help to get over the finish line. So like I said, we have 5 filmmakers in our first cohort. We provided, like I said, access to over 30 executives and producers throughout the year. We had meetings with agents and managers, and with our very helpful partners, we provided in-kind resources for them to be able to create proof of concept films. We also matched them one-on-one with mentors. And I want to give an example of our success story from 2024. One of our filmmakers, Jessica Liu, an incredible filmmaker, look her up. She had on her wish list Randall Park. We were able to make that connection, and he became her mentor. He signed on to the film. They made the proof of concept. He signed on to the feature as a producer, and he starred in it, and they wrapped production in September. They got the California tax incentive. It's called Better Life. They're in post-production. And so to even have played a small part in helping that feature come to life proved that the model could work. The talent is there. We have one of the new 2026 members in the audience, actually, Taylor Lee Nagel. Congratulations. Her film is a part of the Rising Director Fellowship. It's going to be the 3rd cohort. And so that's like a very specific way that when the studios are cutting back on things, when the government is taking away money from arts programming, like, go within your own organizations, go within your own communities, and figure out, like, what can we do? What can we build to lift each other up? Who can we partner with to help lift both organizations up? Partnerships, community, and just building the program, quite honestly, that you wished you had had is the way that we made Rising Directors and the way that we made it a success.
Kudos. Wow.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's exactly the motive. Is like, what did I wish I had? Yeah, that's the motive.
And Gianfranco, you are an award-winning filmmaker, and as you mentioned earlier, you had your work screened in Telluride.
That's right.
And
That's right.
Cannes. You didn't mention Cannes.
That's right.
And Cannes.
And Cannes.
Yes, Cannes, sorry.
Both.
Yeah, both. It's both, yes.
It's both for us
Both.
Americans.
With the current entertainment landscape, what are you working on now? And how have you had to change your project or the way you go about it due to the current entertainment landscape?
You make more, right? Like that's kind of the start of it. Is you go, I made this incredible script. Look, it's the Nickel Fellowship said it's it's one of their finalists and all these things, and then it's impossible to package. And this is very advanced talk here. Someone's like, what the heck is packaging? Come and find me, man, and we can talk. You might be at a very early stage, and that's okay. Sometimes those moments where you're packaging a film makes things very, very difficult. Again, what a cool moment to hear, Kylie over here talking about exactly this, packaging, and through what? An organization that aligns with what you're doing as a filmmaker. That's a very, very powerful, powerful thing. In the interim, while you're trying to package something, you should not sit on your hands. A filmmaker needs to be making films. That is the job of the filmmaker. If a director's not directing, what are they doing? They're getting rusty, So always be directing. It's a little bit of a cheat there. They always say like always be, what is it, selling? What? Closing, that's the one. That's a little,
ABC.
Always be closing. So skip the C, and get to the D. Always be directing as much as possible.
Always be creating.
Always be, oh, snap. This is what the organizations come through to do. Anyway, this is like one of those things where I often think to myself, if I didn't have NewFilmmakers LA that was championing a lot of my work, it wouldn't have been seen by so many of the people who are now championing my work that have a much larger platform. For example, Movie Maker magazine, they've been an incredible ally for me and champion of mine in my work. And that's a really powerful thing as a filmmaker, because the more people can read your name and see your face and know what you're talking about, especially when you have something to say, then it starts to create traction and build momentum, which is pivotal for your career. Now, in relationship to what I'm doing in this moment, right, what I'm working on, like I said, those several projects. I'm working on that film that played at Telluride, When Big People Lie. I'm working on the feature for that right now. I've got a film that's in post right now that I've just decided, which is another story, but we can save it for another time. We'll save it for the fireside chat of turning this little short into a feature suddenly, because you just have to take what you have and go, okay, this thing's post-production, but my other stuff's going a little too slow, and I'm just gonna make this thing happen right now. There's no use in waiting, especially when you've got talented actors and talented people around you, and you have the access because you found those people who already echo the things that you say as a filmmaker. So get to it, you know. Period.
Yes. Love it, love it. We're gonna get to our Q&A question section of this. I'm gonna ask this question to you guys. So there's so much going on right now. We know what's going on in the world, in the industry, and but we know that throughout history, tumultuous change can bring about so many good things. So to put more, positivity into it, what do you hope will happen as a result of all of this, everything that's going on? What do you hope to see in this industry?
Yeah. I would say I want more diversity of stories. I subscribe to all of the things, and thank God I can go to film festivals because that's where I'm actually getting to see more films. So I think there's a huge opportunity here for technology to help find audiences. There's an audience for everything. I know billions of people seem to love true crime. I'm not one of them. So please, I need my content. There's a lot of people that don't like true crime just like me. So I think that there's just a huge opportunity to use technology for, Netflix's amazing data collection algorithm. They know that there are niche audiences for so many different things. So they need to start buying those and putting them on the platform and also helping us find them. And I just think that access is another thing. I'm talking to actually a couple of our filmmakers about the possibilities of AI dubbing, because we show a lot of our films in communities that don't have access to films, and a lot of, one of our film subjects, actually, she works with a lot of domestic abuse immigrant survivors, and they can't read the Spanish subtitles. So she wants to use AI to copy her voice to dub it into multiple languages. And we're talking with other filmmakers who are showing their films in rural communities in all sorts of different languages. So I see a lot of really hopeful opportunity here for us to be able to reach new audiences with new types of films. So that's what I'm hopeful for, but there's a lot to be scared of. And so I want to make sure that we're also using our voices to advocate for everyone. I would encourage you to check out blockthemerger.com, which is the Future Film Coalition, talking about consolidation and how it could limit our choices. That's what I don't want to happen. I do not want to limit our choices of what we can watch and what can be made. So make sure that you're joining AWD, PGA, all of these guilds and associations. Like, we can come together with all of our voices together. We can advocate for all of this.
Yeah, I think as a filmmaker, the thing that I often am struggling with is the ceiling that we have, because there's always a ceiling, right? So sometimes we're talking about all of these wonderful things and connecting with these organizations. Some of them are really accessible, and others are get pay to play. That doesn't make them negative, right? Sometimes you have to get into that festival, and then all of a sudden, like, I find Alex at Shine Global. But I had to pay to get into Indie Shorts, you know what I mean? So I think I want that barrier of entry to just come down a little bit. Although I understand that these organizations are doing a lot with a little. And so, just finding a way to coordinate a little bit better in this particular time, right? This is not looking great with all the mergers that are happening and with everything going on and the administration and yada, yada, yada. We can talk ourselves to sleep with this stuff, It's dire, but the thing that is the light is our art, and finding ways to make that art shine, I think is huge. Go ahead, I don't know, come on.
Yeah, I want to piggyback.
What do you think?
I actually have a different perspective because I work with the youth, and the youth did not grow up in the ecosystem that we're used to. They're like, I go to YouTube and I watch my favorite YouTuber. They don't even know about the networks. It's mind-blowing to me. So their mind is like, if I want to go tell somebody about my day at high school, I can go make my own little series about it with my phone, and I can put it out there, and then my friends watch it, but then other people start to watch it, and it becomes their own like world, like this little story, and then they get these viewers, and it encourages them, yeah. So they're creating the content they want to see, because they have the tools and the access, and now just AI is just kind of this part that's enfolded in them that they're able to kind of monitor, like, okay, I want a story about this and blah, blah, blah. But the one thing that I do want to emphasize to all of us here and also to our students is to not lose their humanity in the process. Because what I do find our kids doing is, because they haven't had real life conversations enough and experiences in person with people, they stay quiet. They are not sure how to critically think about what the AI tells them. So they just take it at face value. They go, no, miss, Google told me so. I'm like, whoa. No, you're not right, miss. Google told me so. No, so being able to remember your humanity and finding it, and you do that by being in person, showing up, talking to each other, and having these conversations, because you learn about yourself, you learn about your perspective. And then you can use the AI tool to enhance what you're writing, what you're creating, coming up with ideas. There's kids who have come up with ideas for series, or like, I want to get my YouTube channel created, and they go to ChatGPT or whatever AI, and they learn how to do it that way. They can do that, but once they have a place of knowledge where they can critically think about that idea, and I think we can too. Yeah, so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. No, yeah, no, really, yeah.
Thank you. That kind of set me up a little bit to say, well, I hope media literacy is something that we're approaching. Yes. That is something that I'm hopeful that the youth is learning. And but what I really hope for is this, revolution. First of all, an indie film revolution, I think, has to happen, right? With the consolidations, like, there has to be something that grows out of it, and I think it will. And I think that with AI, that's a whole separate conversation that we can talk about. But there's going to be a real hunger for reality and for real faces and for just the human texture of it all. And so I hope that there's even more democratization of the ability to make films and for people to be able to express themselves in a humanistic way and be able to make a living doing it, to be quite honest. Because I think all of us in this room would love to be able to be artists that can make a living and sustain our lives. So that is something that I am very hopeful for. I am also terrified about, but I wake up every day and I have my coffee and I sit down at my desk and ask, how can I make that happen today? So that's what we're doing at AWD.
Love it. Great. Before we go to the Q&A section, does anybody want to add anything else? All good?
I will add, anyone out in the audience, I definitely want to encourage you. We want to provide more opportunities to our youth. So if you have a brand that you're looking to make a commercial for, or if you're looking to provide more of those opportunities, we'd love to talk to you so that we can reach more kids and give them their first job. So thank you.
That would be amazing. Okay, so let's start with our Q&A section. Yes. Oh, great, thank you. Yay.
Who was it?
Yes.
Hi, so my name is Ashanti Sharif. I work with Shine Global. I'm really proud of what we've been able to do together in our partnership. And I'm currently getting my doctorate in leadership management for nonprofit, but I have a background in filmmaking as a producer. My question to you is for you, Kylie. My dissertation is focusing on mentorship programs for film and TV, and in particular for your coalition supporting Latino and Black up-and-coming directors. How do you work with the mentors to make sure that there's a sustainable and ethical relationship building, that they're not just investing for the name and coalition brand partnership, but that they're working with those mentees for a sustainable career? This sounds amazing, and I'm very interested.
Thank you so much for your question. And also, I would love to connect after the panel to chat about your dissertation, because that sounds fascinating. And thank you for doing that and doing that research. It's very important. I think one of the great things about AWD having been around for almost 30 years is that we have developed directors, and directors have developed in our membership to the point where they're now the mentors. So many of the mentors are AWD members, and so I think that we bring in trusted mentors is one of the answers for that. people who have been in their shoes and have been with our organization for a long time and understand what that mentee needs. Because I think that's the hard thing, is when there's just like a random, hey, this person's your mentor now, do the thing. They might not know what you need at that moment in your career. And so I think working with sort of the program chairs to talk about where each director is in their career, and where they're looking for support. Sometimes they need a mentor that's a director, and sometimes they need a mentor that's something else. Sometimes they need a producer. Sometimes they need an executive for a mentor. And so really, it's about asking the individual where they're at. And that's so hard to do, and it is so labor intensive, and we have so many. I just want to shout out, Alliance of Women Directors has the most amazing volunteers in the world. Our board, a few of the members are here today. Thank you so much. They put so much time and effort into it. And so it is really about, I think, personalization is the short answer to what you're asking. And being in communication. It's not a one-way street and where we just tell you what you need. You tell us what you need.
Yes, okay, so we'll go right here, and then we'll go. So, yes, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Jordan. My question for you all is, who was the mentor or what was the moment that helped the dots connect for you when you were, like, as you've been pursuing your mission? What was like the moment where you feel like the light bulb came on, or you're like, oh wow, like this relationship has been transformative for me, or this opportunity really brought me to the next step?
All of these are great questions, by the way.
Yeah, great. I'll jump on that one. Okay, so I'm a co-founder, Creating Creators, and my co-founder is Polo Munoz. He's in the audience. He's being like a proud dad over there. But Polo and I are maybe polar opposites in so many ways. Like, I'm from the East Coast, he's from the West Coast. But besides that, it's an unfounded collaboration. But what I really responded to is he's someone, unlike a lot of these people in Hollywood, he's someone that made me feel safe. And he also constantly reminded me of what my talents were and heard and listened to me. So from that, we were allowed to have many kinds of conversations to be able to come up with what is really needed at this moment in time. And being able to fully hear him and him being able to fully hear me and my perspective and not have any prejudices shared, that was really important. Because the kids that we serve are very diverse. And I don't know all of those perspectives. And he doesn't know all those perspectives. But together, we at least are sharing our perspectives and hearing out the kids. And I learned so much from him. So thank you, Polo.
Well, I'll just say, I think I had multiple mentors too, and they each could work in a different way with me. And I just got very lucky that I somehow fell into having amazing mentors in Albie Hecht and Susan McLaurie, who were the founders of Shine Global, because I was hearing stories from friends working in Hollywood about the only thing they were doing was picking up dry cleaning, and I was just given autonomy to develop films. So I think that was incredible that on Albie, he had been the head of Nickelodeon for a long time. He had a lot of film production experience, and I would call them like Albie drive-bys, where he'd be like walking by and he'd just be like, one sentence of direction, and then I would have to figure everything else out. And then I could go to him and he would give me some more feedback, and that's how I was able to really actually learn. He was telling me what to do, but not how to do it. So I was able to figure it out. And then from Susan, whose background was actually in social work and education, the way that she works with other filmmakers and with the participants, it was eye-opening how she approached everything that we were doing from this place of empathy and integrity that I wasn't really seeing in a lot of other places. So I just was so lucky to have those two mentors. And then every film that I worked on, there were people on there that someone was teaching me about post-production. I didn't know what aspect ratio was when I started, right? So someone's like teaching me that. So I had multiple mentors. So I think you could find multiple people to help you, each with a different thing or a different need.
Yeah, and I'll say there was a point none of us knew what aspect ratio was. We all had to learn that, you know? I think that brings up sort of this like lateral mentorship where it's not really mentorship, but it's people that you're at the same level with and getting to learn from each other and not be afraid. Because sometimes I think with mentors, it's like, oh, it's this person and they're more experienced and I don't want to seem dumb and I don't want to ask what aspect ratio is. But if I can just ask my friend who's at the same level, but they might have a different set of knowledge than I have because we've had different experiences, I think it's so important to have that community around you where you just feel comfortable and it's a safe space to ask. So sometimes our cohort of where we're at can be really good mentors as well.
Yeah, I think I have a legacy of mentors and mentorship that have got me to where I am, who I am, all these things. I'm not getting paid by them, but New Filmmakers, New Filmmakers, they've done more for my career as a filmmaker than I think any other organization. Really, and it's not just because they're out there advocating the word of Gianfranco. It's more so that network, right? That I'm getting through New Filmmakers just keeps expanding. And while I could try and make that same network happen with talking about the Telluride or the Can or any of these other things that maybe I've gotten, I don't think anything has been as fulfilling as for my career as what I've gotten through New Filmmakers LA. So again, choose your partners wisely.
Choose your partners.
Hi. There's a lot of talk about different voices and different whatever. There's a movie for a niche for every film or whatever. But the big thing is getting it seen. Like any recommendations on actually marketing your film. Once you've made a film, you have distribution. It's on, for example, Tubi and Amazon. Like, then what? Like, how do you get the next step if you can't necessarily afford a publicist or whatever?
I can hop on that one, actually, really quickly. And they can talk from the more professional side of it, but from the side of not having any funding, our kids don't have any funding. And they come up with these maverick ways where they'll do like behind the scenes, because they just want to capture what's happening. And then they do like profiles on the characters that are in their projects. And then naturally they are drawn to social media. So what they did is, and we kind of taught them this too, is create their own profile on social media that's separate from them, but on social media platforms which are free and accessible. And then they slowly built out an audience teaching the world about their work. And then for our filmmakers that work with us, we also have something called the Create Challenge that we've developed. It funds every summer about $10,000 to grow their voice. But what we tell them is it can't happen in a vacuum. And I know we don't have a budget for marketing and distribution, but if you can create that behind the scenes package, if you can go online and start building your audience on social media, that means there's an audience for it. And when you get the opportunity, because you're gonna make that awesome film with the funding and everyone's gonna love it, then you can already go to these pitch meetings or to these meetings for distribution and say, look at my audience, I already have like 10,000 people looking at this, and they're engaging. They're not just like passing through. They're talking about my characters, and they want to go to these meetups. And these amazing organizations and film festivals are just one more step in being seen that can be maybe lower cost entry, because maybe there is some money you have to pay to be part of it, but it might not be that super $10,000 campaign, where you're pushing it out. You can go and have this interaction with your fans as you build it, because we have that tool now, the internet. So that is one way. And then there are less traditional ways, which is more word of mouth. And someone mentioned it before, like with our schools, we've had filmmakers come to us and say, can we just roll out screenings at your schools to organically create an audience that they might be interested in? And we've done stuff like that, where they're talking about it. So there's plenty of ways, just thinking outside the box, if you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's always so much work.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Time.
And so that's why I'm still promoting our films from, 20 years ago. So it's never going to stop if you want to keep your film out there. I mean, Amazon might purge your film at any moment, and then you're going to have to come out with a new way to figure out distribution. So it's so I'm going to come back to partnerships again. You know, you have to tell your partners when there are opportunities to share the film, keep in touch with them. Just posting on social media, I try not to be on social media for hours every day. So I'm not going to see every filmmaker's post that I love. They have to tell me that their film is going to be premiering, and then I can start emailing everybody. We can organize FYC screenings, but you have to keep in touch with all of those people too. If you figure out a magic way that's not a lot of work, please tell me.
Yeah, I think you know, backing this up a little bit, you know, if we did a step one, I think that the step one is as we focus on viewership, which is it's totally understandable. I think we step back and we go, instead of trying to get it to 10 million people, get it to the right one or to the right 10. That sounds like not the same, right? You go, that's not the 10 million. That's not what I want. But if we can find the right 1, 2, 3 people, then it's going to naturally start to make its way to others. Because that person is going, that word of mouth thing that we just talked about just a little second ago, but it's a different kind of work that you have to do to get there, right? This is that thing where now we're looking at either organizations or people inside organizations that we can talk to. Hey, I really admire your work, right? I have to use my email for this. I have to use LinkedIn for this. And you know, I'd really love for you to give me any thoughts on this piece that I did, which I think mirrors a lot of what you believe already. And now I'm finding, again, that person who's aligning with what I'm saying. I don't know if that's the one person that I need, but if I think that that's the one person that I need, I'm gonna start there, and then, you know, maybe branch out. Maybe the question that I'll ask is there anybody that you think I should send this to? Anyway, these are the kind of ways that are going to be a little more work because you're focusing on one person as opposed to the 10 million. But the 10 million is hard, man. So you gotta start with the one, right? It's little by little that you get these things seen by a lot more people. The way to begin that is through support, which is why this thing with, you know, organizations is so important. They support you, you support them. It's a cyclical relationship.
And I also think that audience building begins even before you make the project. And the pursuit of filmmaking is relentless, you know, but it is something that if you're passionate about it, you will find your audience, and there will be people that want to hear your voice. So when you're pitching your project, when you're crowdfunding your project, when you're making your project, those are all also more times to like bring people in who believe in it enough that they're gonna spread it out there as well, so that it doesn't all fall on you, because it is so much work. So really creating that community as you make the project that will then be able to go out and spread the word about it and get it to the right 10 million people to see it.
Thank you all, so insightful. Next question. Okay, yes, and then we'll go, yes. I see you.
We got you, girl. I'm gonna make sure we get you. I'm gonna make sure.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for all of your helpful wisdom and tips today. I'm especially loving what you've been saying about kind of having to be scrappy and leverage one project and one opportunity to kind of lead to the next and chart a course that way. And I just wanted to kind of throw out a hypothetical situation that for me, I have a play premiering at Yale in February that's like a dark comedy about like a slam poetry troupe in downtown LA. And my dream is to make it into a feature. And I'm wondering how I might leverage the fact that it's gonna be a play and I can invite people to this play, and it's, you know, it's a kind of a proof of concept that's film adjacent, how I can maximize this to maybe lead to the next thing, and if you had any thoughts on in that kind of scrappy vein.
I have two thoughts. The one is I would take this thing that you're doing. I know it's a lot of work on the front end, so maybe it's after you've done like your initial run, and you do a proof of concept, something very simple that you can control. I mean, maybe it's even on the stage, doesn't matter. But you take something that then you can kind of give to somebody else and they start to see it. If I had to put myself in that world, I would kind of start with what I think is important there, which is the critic, and finding people that then would support me in that space, and then utilizing that to leverage it for executives, or to leverage it for other filmmakers to come on board and join your vision. And these are very simple things, and they're very like phase 0, but I think that that's where you begin to really start opening the door for a feature film.
And collect audience feedback from it, and then you can put that in your pitch deck. This is loved by all audiences, 5 stars. And you could film performing the play and make a sizzle out of it. You're gonna have to, not everybody's gonna be able to come to see it in person, so you're gonna have to be able to share the love of that experience with other people in a different format.
Yeah, when you're pitching, you want to have visuals that people can imagine the world. You can even use AI if you want to create those visuals, or hire someone that really understands and can give you exactly what you need, because then you're creating the community too and helping other artists. But one thing that you may I want to ask you, and you don't have to answer this, but do you have an idea of a script already for what that series would look like? Because the first question you're going to get is, okay, that's a great idea, do you have others? Because they want to know that you're really thinking the whole series through, and that you aren't just going, someone else do it. No, you need to be ready for those conversations and be ready for multiple ideas and who your characters are. Because we fall in love with characters when it's TV, right? So, yeah, consider that. Mm-hmm.
Wait, is it TV? Did I mess it up?
Oh, a feature, sorry, yeah.
But hey,
know
she
your
just
characters.
opened a new door for you, didn't she?
I know, now I'm thinking series, sorry, I'm in my head, yeah. Good.
Anybody else want to chime in? Right, great. So yes, we remember, and then we'll go over here.
Thank you for not forgetting about me. Loving this panel. My name is Minda Hartz, and I am a member of AWD, so shout out to them. I was an author first, and I had success as an author, and I've been making films for the last 2 years, writing, producing, and directing, and I'm on my 4th short, and my question is, at what point do I get stuck in the short tunnel, right? I have feature scripts, but I've just been doing kind of the film festival circuit, so what's a good advice for bridging that gap so that I'm not just stuck kind of in that shorts funnel? Or is there never too many shorts to make? I'm just curious about that. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being a member and shouting it out. I just want to say, if I had the actual answer for you, I would be a billionaire and be running a studio. Congratulations on making your shorts. Those are really tough things to do and really great accomplishments. I think my answer is, you have to be doing both at the same time. You have to be working on and developing all of the feature projects that you have, and keep, was said earlier, someone said, keep making work. A director should be directing. So there's no magic number, right? There's no one that is gonna come in and say, well, you did too many short films, sorry, you can't do a feature. But at the same time, put your energy into the project that speaks to you the most and where the most momentum is. So if you are working on that next feature, really or the first feature, put your energy in that, and then, while we're also saying, do all the other things, build your audience and promote your short and go to the festivals and do all that. But, I also believe there is something in, the universe rewards action, right? So if you're going out, if you're talking about it, if you're actively working on it, not just sitting there waiting for something to happen, that's when it's gonna, there's gonna be some movement on it. But I will say, I think this is a problem, and this is exactly why we created the Rising Director Fellowship, is because I see a lot of nodding heads in the audience that there is just a thing that we get stuck in where people are like, well, you've never made a feature, so you can't make a feature. We're like, well, how do I make a feature? And it's I don't know, do you have a rich uncle? No, I don't have a rich uncle, so what is the other option for me? And I don't have the right answer, but I think keep doing what you're doing, keep applying to the programs, apply to Rising Directors next year. And I'll let the other people speak here, but I think the right partners will find you, and never be afraid to create because you think it's too many short films.
I think something that I've learned kind of more now, maybe over the last couple of years, is you have to find a level of balance as a filmmaker. So I'm on short, just to make you feel good about yourself. I'm on short like 15. I only say 9 because I only got 9 good ones. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but the point there is that at certain times I have to say I'm not directing any short films because my energy is going toward my feature. You can't make a short film and put all of your energy into it and make it the best work that you've done as a director and make the best work as a writer on a feature. You can try. I've done it. It's very, very difficult, and I think one suffers. I do think this is a game of you're like juggling balls. So at times you're holding one that you may not want to be holding, and then you got to toss it and you grab the other one. But I do think that balancing when you're holding those balls is it's an advantage to the filmmaker. So I would say if you're wanting to make a feature film, start by focusing on the feature film. That doesn't mean that the feature film is going to be shot and cast and all these things. It's a journey, man. It's a long journey. So just get to the place where you're like, I'm happy with what this feature is, and now I can go back to the short films while I'm doing the other parts to this feature thing, because I know it's going to take a year, 2 years, 3 years.
I want to add one thing. I don't know why it's coming into my head right now, but when I was in college, I went to NYU. I didn't even mention that, but I went to NYU, and I remember this one professor telling us, don't make your passion project first. And it's hard because that's the thing usually that gets you over that hump of all that hard work. But many times when you make that first feature, it should be that thing that gets your name out there maybe, but be prepared because it's maybe your first time in that directorial role in your feature, people are gonna pull it and move it different ways and change things, and then it gets out there, but you may have sacrificed something that you didn't want to. But once that feature gets out there, then your name is known, then they know your talent, and then you can make your passion project the way you want to make it, hopefully. There may still be pull, there may still be things, but yeah, that's...
I want to add to that because, maybe your passion project is like, this thing that you've had on top of your, you're like, this is going to be such a great film. I would say go inward, find like the weirdest, ugliest thing in your gut and pull that to the surface. And typically it's not your passion project, because your passion project is this fun thing that you think everybody's going to love. But the thing that I think is going to speak truest to you is the thing that you're afraid of, and you write that.
I'm just going to say something a little bit different than all of that. I guess I'm just so mission-driven that every project is a passion project, or I guess or maybe I just find the way that I just love this project and make it my passion project. But because I have a mission, everything I do is, I want to make the world a better place. I want to improve kids' lives. How am I going to do that? And that's what's driving me across everything, is this bigger mission. And then I find that in every project that I'm doing. And so every project is a passion project.
Spoken like a true producer.
Yes.
So we're talking about... Please wait for the microphone.
Heads up. Thank you.
Don't you say a word till you get that mic.
Thank you.
Testing. Okay, so we're talking about new media and various ways to reach audiences, and we're talking about that compared to reaching 1 to 10 people, so there's a little bit of a divide there. But my question is actually related to the chain of IP, and if you have advice in terms of like, if you're a novelist and you also are a screenwriter, and if you think that there's like a path of least resistance, do you need to be a bestseller, or can you get a good story out there, control the IP chain, and then effectively bring new IP to life and also have some form of creative control in the process?
I think you have to be prepared to say no. You have to have the discipline to say no, to know when there are people who are sharks that are out there and they don't have your best interest in mind. And sometimes it might be that $1 million paycheck they're offering you, but you gotta have the discipline to say, no, it doesn't align with me, and I know you don't have my best interest. And that's scary because you're walking away from success. I've had personal experience with that, but I do want to encourage you to make friends with a good lawyer. Yes.
We love lawyers. We love lawyers. Yes.
If you invest, make sure that you invest in someone that can guide you appropriately in that terms. Yeah.
And also make friends with a good director. You know, I think that if you have some IP, you know, a lot of the things that, you know, pop off, that are, you know, pop cultural icons, they start with IP. Not necessarily these franchises either. You know, sometimes a short story gets picked up and then it's like all of a sudden spun into a feature film. Sometimes it's like a Twitter, you know, like remember that one film, what was it, Zola? You know, that was a whole thing. So you can really, it's your sandbox. I think anything's possible. You just have to frame how is it possible. Is the thing that I want to make a proof of concept with a director that I trust, and it's a short film, and we make it for nothing because we have nothing? Great. Is it, you know, writing that feature and you're adapting it from this little short story that you've already written, and you're trying to package it with the right people? You know, all these are steps that you have to take, but it starts with what you want.
Just to add to that, because I'm an agent, so I represent writers and directors, you don't have to be a bestseller. We do deals with novels that are not bestsellers, and we've been able to do a lot of wonderful things where they've been able to turn their novel or their short story, doesn't even have to be a novel, it could be a short story, into and get them a deal for film or TV. So we'll talk after. Yeah. Yes, please.
Hi guys, thank you so much. This has been really eye-opening. I'm an actor primarily, have been for a while and have survived at it. And I'm
so sorry.
You got no idea, pal. No, you do probably. You guys are all artists. I am in, I suppose, something of a mid-career reinvention that has kind of come about because the earth is changing under our feet at the moment. I wondered if you had any insights or advice about what it would take from someone from a very different discipline. I very hesitantly raised my hand when you guys asked if there was any filmmakers, because I'm not, I haven't made anything. I've just been writing and developing out of a need to tell a story. I want to move into this phase, into a different phase, to be a little bit more direct with the creative process. I don't have a background in it, a knowledge in it, and an institution where I've been able to meet those kind of peers. I need to pay bills. I'm a grown adult, you know what I mean? So what are the pathways for someone who is looking to find work, like Alexander, like you did, in some of these places where you can learn and also pay your bill, ideally, you know what I mean? Even if it's not developing, you know, dream projects, just simply kind of hands-on, like, oh yes, I'm doing this thing, I can learn where some of my gaps are, and kind of like, how do I get a day job that I can learn from, I guess is what I'm asking.
And we'll just have one person answer this because we do have to wrap up, but we can have more of these conversations after. So thank you for ending this with a great question.
Oh, okay, I will come work with me. Creating Creators hires filmmakers like you. You're a filmmaker, you're a creator. We want to hire filmmakers in every state, so we're trying to build it out throughout the country. So I don't know where you live, but we're right now in California. We're hoping to bring it out throughout the country. But at the same time, the best way to become a better artist is to teach it. So if you're working in our classrooms teaching the kids about what you do, how you write your story or what you're doing, then you're like, oh yeah, that's better. I can do it that way in my work. Meanwhile, we pay you. So you're learning, like you were asking, and this company came out of the fact that I was an actor, my co-founder is a producer, and we didn't have time for a 9-to-5, which would pay our bills for rent and things like that. And I couldn't go away from my auditioning. So we had to work around our own schedules. So we create this backbone and this timeline that's mirrored with what we do with film to be able to get you to be able to, hey, I got an audition tomorrow, and we give you that flexibility. So you go do your audition, guess what? You're going on set, you're bringing all that information back to our kids. So that's like a win-win. That's why our ecosystem and our business model is designed around that. And we have other filmmakers that cover for you because they know the process in film. So yeah, I mean, first of all, don't tell yourself you're not a filmmaker. You are. And second of all, either come work with me or find jobs that allow you that flexibility to continue your craft because that's your number one passion.
Thank you so much. And I wish we had more time, but that is it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Look us up, follow us.
Happy
Do all the
Sundance,
things.
everyone. Thank
Find
you so
our
much.
movies.